Where are you from? Where's home?
Oh man, I've lived in a few places. I don't really know what home is anymore, but I was born in Cincinnati and raised
The
there.
real Rust Belt.
And then moved to Cheyenne, Wyoming when I was 12, and then moved to Laramie for college. And I guess Laramie's the closest thing to home because that's where I feel the most content, although I'm trying to move out of there now too. But I mean, yeah, I've been a lot of places, I feel like.
For sure.
Where's next? Where are you looking to go?
Well, before all the COVID stuff hit, it was going to be Portland, which is still, I mean, it's still the dream. It's on the radar. But I have a boyfriend that wants to kind of move anywhere, and I'm down to move anywhere. So I applied to some jobs in Boise and looking at Kansas City, still Portland, Phoenix, and then wherever a job comes is where I'll go.
Mm-hmm.
So,
what kind of work are you looking for?
So I got my degree. So I graduated last spring with a degree in journalism and an emphasis in marketing communication. So I really want to work in marketing and journalism, preferably music related, but at this point I'm just kind of desperate for anything. So if I can just get in marketing or journalism somewhere, I think I'll be good. So, yeah.
I envy that because, I don't know, from way back, you know, sports broadcasting was always a thing. I was super into like the analytics and just for some reason my brain just clicked that way. But I was always too incompetent to write well enough to, I think, really pursue it. And that's probably because the give a shit level was pretty low on working hard. So I envy that, especially since it's like this little niche, especially in music and stuff, giving a voice to some people that don't normally have a voice, you know, off the stage.
For sure. I mean, when I went, I just remember going to my first concert and just loving that feeling and loving music. But then once I kind of got into high school, just like seeing Alternative Press magazine, you know, when that was like really huge and getting that sent to my house every month with like an interview on one of my favorite bands or something and just reading like how much actually goes into the concerts that you see and the music that's written. Like people can sometimes just think a song is written overnight and it just like, there it is, you know, and it's totally not like that. And just people's journeys and stuff, even dating a touring musician, like you just hear so many things and it's like, no wonder you're so creative and you have this outlet because you've experienced so much. And I want to be the person that lets them have a voice beyond their music. That's like, this is me though. Like this isn't just a band or a brand thing that we're doing. Like this is my life, this is my authentic self, like this is what I'm doing. And I just loved reading those stories and I was like, I want to talk to people, I want to get the story from myself, you know. And it was just so fun to kind of put things together and just make a person look as cool as I think they were by writing about them and talking with them. So
it probably gives you like some inside stuff too, because you read these articles in a magazine or on a website or whatever and you get a condensed version of, you know, what the journalists themselves took in, what was allowed to be put out, that kind of thing. So I bet that was probably interesting to you, getting like the whole story and then being able to obviously put your own spin on it.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just super fun when you find things out that you're like, I had no idea, you know, and it's like you can really, I don't know, if you are really interested in it and care about it enough, you can really make it like a conversation to where it suddenly they forget it's an interview and they're just telling you all this stuff and you're just like, give me more, like what about this? Like, and I've had people that are like, whoa, like you really got to me. I didn't even think that you would get that out of me. I don't talk about that. And it's like, well, I don't have to put it in, you know, we're just chatting here. But if it's cool if I put it in the story, I think it'd be a really great like highlight, you know? So it's super fun. It's like an art form I didn't really think was an art form until I started to do it. And then people actually were like, this is so cool. I didn't know that. And because I never thought of myself as like an artsy person or a sporty person or anything like particular. And then I got into writing and I was like, cool, I think I can actually do this. Like I can work with this. So it's been really fun.
I'd say so. You consider yourself to be a pretty avid music lover and music goer, obviously. You told me a story one time about how you have traveled the country to watch. Is it Borns? Is that
No,
the
the 1975.
1975.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude.
Where have you gone to see this band?
So, yeah, so a bunch of times in Denver, of course. And then we flew to Chicago, actually. My friend Jamie and I did, and saw them there. And then we were going to go to the Madison Square Garden show, had everything
that'd been
planned.
dope.
But it was right after the Ariana Grande Manchester shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
And I was worried about copycat crimes.
Yes, you should be, yeah.
Because that was our very first time playing Madison Square. It was like sold out so quick, and we were looking at resale tickets and stuff. And then it just kind of like push came to shove, and it was like, I don't really know like what could happen. So we didn't do that. But I mean, I've been to Salt Lake City for a few concerts, and we flew to Chicago again, to Seaborns, who I don't like anymore for reasons that are the classic sexual assault allegations that seem to be going on. But we did go for him, and I mean, if there's a tour I want to see and it's not in Denver, I'll just go where I can. So it's
That's cool.
definitely a big thing for me. Yeah, and I've tried to get a few interviews with bigger bands, and I've landed a couple with the band Coin. They're like a pop band. I got to interview the lead singer on the phone one time. Had like an agent involved and everything. It was really crazy. And then Ryan Scott Graham for State Champs. He's the bassist of a pop punk band, and he was super cool. He was in the studio and just was emailing me answers to his questions while they were recording new tracks, and I was just
That's
this
awesome.
is nuts. Like I don't know why you're talking to me, but this is cool. So
Yeah,
it's
we just
fun.
had our lead-off experience with something like that, talking to Brian Dunn.
Yeah, he's like
Not even close to as big, but
No.
It's okay.
he is near and dear to these guys' hearts.
Really.
Without
But
question.
it is strange. It's definitely strange to think that you're having this conversation with me, but not only that, but you're just like me. As far as
Yeah.
like you're a normal person,
Mhm.
there's nothing weird here. I mean, he opened up right away. It just kind of flowed like not that we'd known each other, but he was
Right.
open to some complete strangers across the country.
Yeah.
And that's like the
So I
fun
do
thing
feel
about
that.
it. Yeah,
Mhm.
like just how conversation can just, I don't know. It's like you want to be starstruck, but you don't because you don't want them to know you are.
Of
But you're like,
course.
I have so many things I
Yeah.
want to know.
Mhm.
And like when you sit there, I mean, I take notes before interviews. I'm reading articles and looking up, things that they've been doing as an individual versus with the band. 'Cause you don't want to go into an interview like, hey, what's like how you
Right.
been?
Yeah.
It's just weird, like you kind of need to know what's been going on because it makes the conversation flow, and then you can kind of branch off into random
Mhm.
stuff.
Mhm.
But like you're taking all these notes, and it's like I want to ask him so many questions that I personally want to know, but people might not care about that, so I
Mhm.
kind of gotta like save it for the end if he'll let me like sneak something in. But yeah, it's super fun, and once you realize that they are so normal, it's like cool. Like we can just kind of talk about whatever we want, and it
Mhm.
feels like I've just met you at the bar and we just chatting it up. And then I found out you were a musician, so it's fun.
It's strange in this climate with everything that's going on, all the polarizing stuff, that even something like that is just a connection of two complete strangers, and it just works. Like you instantly find common ground. So it's strange to look at everything going on and just think that people can't just sit down and have a conversation and get to the bottom of shit.
Right.
So that was one thing I took away, is just how free flowing it was with somebody you don't know, who obviously I'm not a musician. He has a little bit more to relate to him.
Right.
But just easy to find common ground, easy to make a friend.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think people need to remember that, because it's not very prominent in our society right now.
Yeah, and I think it's cool to get away from the music a little bit too,
Mm-hmm.
you know? I mean, they talk about like all that stuff all the time. It's
Mhm.
like you ask the same questions that all the journalists have asked, and they're just kind of like, I literally just talked about this last week, and so you kind of want to like think outside the box, and it can get really fun. And I've done some work for Brennan's band, The Woodpile, at points, doing a bunch of interviews, and we
Fun
did a
stuff.
whole
Mhm.
inside the songs thing with their EP, and I just got to sit and just listen to them, just bounce ideas on like what they were thinking at the time of the song. And I was just sitting there just like taking notes, like, oh, it's so cool, I didn't know that. And so it's just,
Insider view.
yeah, it's fun
Also, a very interesting group of people, by the way. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
good group of people to sit down with.
Mhm.
for sure.
I think it was it just Evan and I in that interview?
Yeah.
But it was still cool because we were, obviously, like, just talking about the processes. And a lot of it is Evan, because I think, was that talking about the album, or was that the EP at the time?
That was the EP.
Yeah, okay,
yeah.
yeah.
So Hunting Hearts, and just going track by track and just listening to all the details. And that's boring for some people, but I've just decided that if you just really care about music, you just want to hear anything about it, because that's how I feel. That's how a lot of people who are involved in music feel. And so I just wanted to do that. And I was like, I don't really care if it gets like a niche audience. Like, I just want some piece like that where somebody can actually look at what it takes to write a song.
Yeah, the inside the songs like portion of that is super interesting to me because this band that I liked called Little Chief put out a bunch of stuff like 5-6 years ago, and then they stopped putting out music, and then just the lead guy came back, and they had since like disbanded and everything, and he dropped an EP under the Little Chief name, but he put out a podcast for each song and just kind of detailed the writing process and everything that went into it. And I thought, because I mean, as far as the EP went, it was the songs were good, but after I had listened to like the whole process of writing them, it made me kind of appreciate them a little bit more.
Yeah.
As a listener. And
For sure.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and I mean, I've sat in the studio with the woodpile and have watched them record things. And so my boyfriend Blaise is in Sorry No Sympathy, which is a hardcore band out of Laramie as well. And it's just funny because when I first met him and started hanging out with him like 2.5 years ago, they were just demoing all of the music that's coming out right now. And so, I mean, not even from a journalist perspective, just like a music lover's perspective, just seeing that whole process. Like I sat in while they were demoing, and then they went to the studio and they brought back those, rough cuts, and then watching it get mixed, and then the music video, and it's just so fascinating. And that's what, I mean, just makes me think like this is why I love journalism. This because I can go in and talk about those stories from a journalist perspective, and then someone who really loves the band will be like, "This is crazy."
Well, right, yeah. As a listener, you can see where things evolve and how they evolve, and understand what's going on at the time with the individual or the band or society or whatever. And you can see the evolution of it, and that's dope. That's definitely a cool thing, especially for smaller bands, smaller groups, whomever.
Yeah.
Being able to detail some of that stuff, I think, is important. So shouts out to you for giving some of those people the light.
Dude, yeah, and like I just remember back when the Woodpile was just playing the songs, you guys hadn't released an EP or anything, how impatient the fan base was for you guys to get it out, and how like I didn't being able to look at that kind of from the inside, because I mean I lived with you guys. There's a lot of work that goes into it. So it's not just, you go into the recording session and you lay it all down and then tomorrow you can release everything. It's a whole process, and I'm kind of starting to find that out with working on this EP we're working on. It goes slow because, not everyone has the lifestyle to be able to just sit down and do it because we all have other things going on,
Yeah.
You just do what you can when you can.
And Kickback Kids.
The Kickback Kids, yeah. Kickback
That was
Kids
a coin name that came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I think
I
it's
love
good.
it though.
Yeah. I think it works.
Good branding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate local music, and anywhere I end up going in this life, I'm going to find the local scene. I think it's really important. I think people often forget that their favorite musicians started from somewhere. Like
Right.
some people are overnight successes for sure, but majority of the people were playing to 2 or 3 people in a bar, and then I mean, it's not easy, and I really want to bring to light those people that don't have that huge fan base yet. And then maybe if I put an article in a publication, for some reason it grasps enough people that that's like helpful for them. My senior year, I competed in the Elbogan, which is an entrepreneurship competition at UW. They hold it every single year, and I was really pushing to get funding to do like an agency where I could help, provide funding for local bands to help give them that turnaround and, land music venues, do some marketing and stuff for them so that they'd be able to have enough money to produce an album and then help them market it and get it out to where the music scene is more, just bigger in Laramie. Like I feel like there was a period where there was a lot of bands, and right now it's kind of not that way. And those small musicians that are trying aren't really getting very far. Despite the whole COVID thing, it's just in general, I think there's not a lot of acceptance to the art scene and like how much it actually does for a town or a city or area. And so I really fought for that. I ended up, of course, not winning, or else I would be doing that right now. But
that's okay.
Music, I'll always try my best, though, to just be a cavalier for the local music industry.
Did you ever go to the singer-songwriter competitions?
I think I went to one a while ago.
I just remember like the first one I went to, and then the next year it was all the same exact people. and for some of them it was the same songs, and it just kind of felt like I don't know, it was kind of stagnant, I guess it felt like to me. I'm just seeing all the same faces of people that were already established, and it was almost kind of like a boys club of sorts of
Right.
like the local music scene there. And I don't know if it's still like that. I haven't been in Laramie in quite some time, but
But that's what's
um,
crazy is stuff has totally stopped. I mean, even before all the COVID stuff, I just felt like less and less shows were happening, less and less activities. And that's where I just get frustrated. And it's like, just because Wyoming's really good at oil and stuff like that doesn't mean that's all it takes to make
mhm,
a town actually worth staying in.
Right.
mhm,
I feel like that's a part of my like losing love for Laramie is I don't feel like there's a show going on all the time that I
mhm,
can just go to or even just pop in for a song and then go down the street and there's another band playing. Like I felt like there was a period there in college where that was happening
mhm,
and it's kind of slowed down. And it's sad and like I think there needs to be more investment in
yeah,
the arts if they want it to be attractive to anybody that's not even a student, you
Is that
know?
where you think that the issue is in funding?
I think partially because I mean, when you think about these local bands, and I think it's also a lack of marketing, you know,
mhm,
I feel like these local bands, they just book the same venue, same songs, same old thing. But when you think about it, I mean, producing an album is not cheap.
mhm,
And if you want it to be really good, you probably should trust someone to take it that's done it before. I mean, not that you can't do it yourself, totally down for the DIY stuff. But if you want something that's like professionally produced, you'll probably have to outsource it, which then costs even more money. And then, you know, if you don't like it the first time, you send it back, more money. I
Right.
mean, it just costs so much to be a part of that process that I feel like if someone was there that knew the marketing and business sense of it, but could also help them with the funding to get them on their feet, and they'd be able to come back with this piece that we can market and, you know, help them get more gigs and get, you know, I even talked about with that project making a venue somewhere that was all ages because there's hardly any of those in Laramie. There's just way too many bars.
mhm,
It's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, and just making it more accessible because I mean the gardens at UW is great, right? But it's so small and
mhm,
it's one night a week and I don't know, I feel like if there was a venue that there was a constant rotation of things going on, it became a more established thing of, you know, this is the music spot and maybe
mhm,
more
Mhm.
bands would be willing to even stop on a tour, you know, like
right,
smaller bands that might
Right.
not be playing huge stadiums, but people that play those small DIY
yeah,
venues, Laramie becomes a place for that.
right.
And that was my goal.
That's
Sure.
interesting that you say that because, like, you look at Old Town Fort Collins. I mean, similar
Yeah.
downtown style to Laramie, but they have like the Aggie and just like these little hole in the wall music venue places, and Laramie's is just bars,
Yeah.
really. Um,
And I feel like it could be like that. And
yeah.
I argued that too. I was like, it's a university town.
Mhm.
Like, people need stuff to do. And yeah, drinking's fun for college students. Of course it is. But there has to be more stuff.
Mhm.
Like, there has to be things that, because there's still professors with kids. You know,
Right.
there's
Right.
still people who are here for like just a research
Mhm.
thing and they're here for like a year or two. Like, to
Mhm.
make people want to stay in a place, you kind of, arts is very important. There's actually a study about how much arts actually affects the growth of an economy. Like more money's put into the economy because people want to do things. They want to
Mhm.
Mhm.
pay to go to a concert because it's something different than going getting drunk at Roxy's and
Mhm.
Right.
going
Not to
home.
mention, you're not paying $100 a ticket to go see, an hour of the band that you listen to on the radio or in
For
your
sure.
playlist or whatever. Like it's cheap hole in the wall stuff, but exclusive to 21 and up.
Mhm.
21 and up. But I would also think that Cheyenne being like 40 miles away or 40 minutes away, whatever, would even attract people to just make that trip down I-80 to come to Laramie to go see stuff during the week or whatever it
Mhm.
may
Right.
be.
Yeah. And
If
I
it's
think
especially if it's all ages.
that's really what I was trying to do. And of course, I mean, of course, there's so many holes in that plan, right? Like me doing that in the competition, I had like my base idea, but I would have to do a lot more legwork to figure out exactly what would work. But I mean, I do believe my whole heart if they would just invest a little more money in the arts and creativity in that town, that there would be
Mhm.
some population growth. Like I really
Mhm.
do, because I probably wouldn't want to leave if I had like more music and more like places to discover new artists and
Mhm.
stuff like that. I probably wouldn't mind staying because there's just enough to do to keep me
Mhm.
there.
Right.
So
And even like we were talking about how like it seems like it's getting less and less. What Fest went from being what it was 2, 3 years ago to being downtown Laramie. It just didn't feel the same. It
I
kind
would
of
agree.
That was because of certain issues with the people that were hosting it. Like Riverside, when it was there, it was really cool. I got to play because the Woodpile played Wetfest in Riverside, Centennial, and then downtown Laramie. We played it 3 years in a row. Riverside was like my favorite experience just because you're going out into this small
Yeah.
area where no one's at. They got it all fenced off, like, and it's like a legit festival. Artists, they have like their special treatment or whatever. But like, it was just really cool that year, particularly for me. And then going to Centennial, the reason they did that is because Riverside said we're not hosting it anymore. We're tired
Right.
of cleaning this up. We're
Mhm.
tired of the
It was
hecticness of
party.
it. But it kind of sucks because it's just like one weekend out of the year, and they
Uh-huh.
were just like, we're not doing it anymore.
well, yeah,
So,
and you can't blame them if you can't leave the place like you found it. I mean,
that's true.
and there's not enough hands on deck for something like that. For
I enjoyed it in Centennial too.
Mhm.
I mean, Centennial was good too.
Yeah, it wasn't too
was.
bad.
It was.
Yeah.
But as soon as it went
Riverside
back to
was
Laramie,
probably my favorite just because it was the first one. But
yeah.
Yeah.
That's something you don't really think about is respecting the people whose property you're on when you're at the festival. Because I
Right.
mean, most people just assume it is what it is, and you don't think about that. But
they
um,
assume someone's going to go back through and make sure everything's picked up and it's
Right.
no issue because they knew they were hosting it.
But they're not the person that has to do that, so they don't give a shit, really.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's a good
And
point.
that's where
That's-
it's like maybe a volunteer crew would have
Yeah,
been
yeah.
like if they offered that on the table, like if we could get X amount of volunteers together, would you still
Because,
host it?
Yeah,
you know?
so many
In
of
my
those
brain-
people would probably be down to do that because they're the same people going to all the shows and everything, so
sure.
they do have that level of respect for it.
In my brain, I would think that would be their first go would be, hey, if you guys want to provide volunteers to help clean this up afterwards, we'll keep doing it. If not, we're not going to let this keep flying the way it is.
Mhm.
That seems reasonable, but
Sure.
I get it. It's their land. Whatever.
well, and then that also could have been stated years leading up to the point to where they cut it. I
Sure.
guess I don't
Sure.
really know the ins and outs, but
It's true.
yeah, that seems logical to do that. But
And I think there's something to be said about the way, like you were saying, the way they treat the bands and stuff out there. There's something to be said about a smaller band getting treated
Mm-hmm.
with respect and,
Oh, yeah.
and
It was
feeling
cool.
a little bit bigger than they are, that kind of thing. I
Right.
think it makes an impact with them too. I guess you would be able to speak more so on that.
Mhm.
I don't know. I just thought it was cool because like at least you're like walking in and then they're like, here's your VIP pass. You throw it on and then people are like, what band are you in, dude? Like, when did you play? Like this and
Right.
that. And I'm just like,
Whoa.
whoa, like we played like Friday night early, so you probably missed us, but and that was how it was every year. But that is what it is. I thought the experience leading up to it in Laramie, I thought the Laramie experience was still a cool thing. It was just not the same because like everyone's going out to those spots in Centennial and Riverside
Mhm.
and they're camping and they're legit festival partying, you know.
Right.
In Laramie it's like, okay, everyone's hanging out, and then the music's over and then everyone leaves the venue and goes to their
Right.
houses or
Once
whatever.
the band you came to see is done playing, then you just meander down to whatever bar you're going to go
Yeah,
into,
sure.
and then
Yeah.
you don't see these acts that you otherwise would have watched if you would have been at the festival all day.
Yeah, and I think the other thing about Wetfest, I just wish there was more diversity of just genres, not
Mhm.
necessarily at Wetfest, but also just in general. Like, I'm a metal kid too. I mean, I'm a pop kid, but I also really love metal and hardcore. And I feel like there's a few bands in town, but they either quit or they dwindle away. And I think it's because there's such a particular interest in town, and
Mhm.
obviously you can't necessarily control that. But I would love to see more like diversity on lineups and more things like that too. And I want people who are encouraged to do genres that aren't as popular to just like keep going
Mhm.
and not necessarily feel like they have to conform to like the popular music.
Mhm.
Because I feel like with Wetfest there wasn't a lot of hardcore or like
Mhm.
anything. And I mean, you could have slotted them probably like in places that,
Right.
I mean, if they're maybe the too loud thing, but I feel like with Riverside it was like the middle of
Mhm,
nowhere, so
mhm.
I don't really know. And I
Sure.
also don't know what goes into the booking. I don't want to like
Yeah.
beat on them like without even knowing what's going on. But it would have been cool to definitely see a little more stuff like
if,
that.
if you would have thrown "Sorry No Sympathy" right after Red Bush or something like that,
Yeah.
and the
Just, like,
audience
pair
would have
it
been
in. Mhm.
super ready for that. I
I think
think.
that would have been a good idea also. But I think it also comes down with that issue, maybe not money, but like trying to bring in a lot of diversity. It comes down to money, not just like
For
hardcore,
sure.
but I think that they were just so limited and they had to accept like donations and stuff.
Right.
Like they had to put that on with what little money that they had. I know the guy, Adam Bender, I thought that he did like everything that he could to try to make that
Yeah.
happen. Also, I do agree though, he could have reached out to these genres that could have been showcased more that aren't as popular.
Right.
I think that the issue is, like you were talking about, the climate of what you're getting in Wyoming. A lot of people are going to tune out, and I'm sure the worry is that if we put this band here, are we going to lose people for the rest of the
For
festival?
sure.
But they
Yeah.
did put on a hip-hop show that was really cool. I can't remember what the band, I think they were called the Chronicles or something, but everyone was super down with that. And that was
See?
something that you wouldn't think. And then they also had like a drum and bass guy the
Yeah.
first year that I was there. So
Yeah,
That's
they
what I
had-
mean, just
I
those
don't know.
weird little things. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, rap isn't very huge, I feel like, in Laramie either. And just, I don't know. But I do get that, you know, like what's going to bring in the money. Like,
Mhm.
that's kind of the frustrating truth about music is like the people who aren't as invested in like those
Mhm.
big genres like country and stuff, you kind of have to just bite the bullet on it.
Mhm.
But I think I just want them also to just be encouraged to keep going, you know,
Yeah.
just because rap isn't as easily digested by Laramie folk doesn't mean that you can't make it work, you know, and start creating things and even, you know, just market it well enough that you can get it beyond Laramie.
Mhm.
You
So
know?
you would think that till you go upstairs at the parlor at the Buckhorn. Then all of a sudden everybody's a rap fan.
That's very
So I
true.
mean,
That's true.
it just
That's
depends
very
on the
true.
vibe. I think. I mean,
I think the age group too. I think
Yeah.
Wyoming is kind of in this zone right now where there's a lot of people that want things to stay exactly how they are. They don't want
Right.
they want to fight the change as long as they can.
And that's, I think, how I felt going into judging with the Elbogan in my music concept because everybody else was a very kind of like technical project. There
yeah,
was
I
someone
wanted to
that was
ask
working
what
with
the other
oil.
stuff was.
Yep.
So the person that won was an oil fracking
Of
type
course it was.
related
Oh,
thing.
God.
And then one that I really liked and that
Upset.
was cool was an ice cream shop that would employ only those with like disabilities
That's cool.
to give them an opportunity. She was like a social work major, so I thought she won like second or third place, I think. And then there was another that was like engineering on some type of like heating cooling system when your car's off so your dog doesn't get overheated in the car or something. I was dead last, so it felt
What?
really good when judges came up to me and told me I far and away had the best presentation, but like no cigar, they couldn't give me anything.
Right.
They just kept, it was kind of like those backhanded compliments where they were like, you were the best
That
one
hurts.
for sure, but like keep going, dude. Your dream's gonna come true. You have great ideas. It's just not the time. And it was just kind of like, not trying to be salty. I'm not going to be ungrateful. You know, I got this far, so I obviously did well. But it's definitely kind of like you recognize that the progress isn't, I mean,
Mhm.
it's not going anywhere.
Right,
Like,
same
no matter
old
what you
stuff.
say. Yeah,
We're talking about fracking and oil. I mean,
right.
that's what brings them money. So
Right.
why not?
And these judges are like, it's kind of like a Shark Tank thing, you know, like, why would I invest in you? And I
How
even
long
showed
did
us.
they give you?
What's that?
How long did they give you to give a presentation?
Oh,
You
God.
remember?
Was it like 7 minutes?
What?
5 minutes? 7 minutes?
I mean, that's like Shark Tank
But
style
like
for
how-
sure.
But you're talking about like people trying to pitch something really impactful. That's
Oh,
not
and
really
I
short.
and I like really, you know, Pat from Not My Weekend. I don't know if you guys know him. He rolled into the presentation. He had his phone up. You know, he's like videoing me, and I was like, okay, I got this. You know, and you just kind of have to hammer through like all of it. But I remember I picked a study that showed how arts and culture actually boost the economy more than other things, other categories. I can't remember the categories. I'm so bad. I can't even remember my own presentation. But I feel like once that happened to me, I kind of shoved everything away and was like, I can't even think about it anymore.
Yeah,
So
that
that's part
hurts.
of it. Yeah, it was pretty hurtful. But I had this study, you know, and then they were like, well, like, how do you expect growth? And I was like, well, you have to kind of, the thing that was hard is these judges have no music background. So they don't really understand how like arts and culture growth would actually work because it's not cut and dry. You know, you can't say I'll sell 10 pairs of shoes and I'll get this much money. Like, it's not like that.
Mhm.
And so I remember they were asking me about how I could actually see growth, and I was explaining like how the number of bands in town can increase the amount of venues, which can then increase the amount of things to do, you know, and they just told me that they couldn't see growth in what I was actually talking about. And I promise you I was way more well-versed at the time. What I'm saying now is totally not even probably
So
close.
where do they pull these judges from? Are they professors at the
They're
school?
alum.
okay.
And they're
but
obviously not like 27 to 35.
No, they were older. And they're random. So the one guy who came up to me after the competition to kind of tell me how I was doing good, and then, but like, you know, he was from Seattle, and he like worked. He's like a millionaire for like a real estate company. He like is one of those big wigs in the tall buildings, suit and tie. And I was like, I don't I don't think you know what I'm saying though, because he was like,
That's
Seattle has so much
crazy.
arts and it's so good, and I was like, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Like
That's what I would
Seattle
think.
is huge because it has shit to do.
Mhm.
Like you can go
Yep.
watch music.
Mhm.
Like why do you think Laramie is still stuck in this like 30,000 people
Mhm.
like bars on every corner but nothing else?
And why
type
everybody
town?
has an alcohol problem or a substance problem.
Right.
Let's
Yeah, and then speaking of that, there was like a social worker on the panel, which to me was interesting with like the social work background. But they said that they tried to bring in judges that would like understand each project to make it kind of like fair. Like you do have someone who's like, I really like the music thing. Like let's talk about that. But I mean, it's just hard to say. It just felt it was a big defeat for me, and I think it's kind of why I turned off my journalism side for a little bit after graduation and just kind of put my head down and started working full time just to make ends meet. Because I mean, it's hard, like to really believe in something, and you can't let it completely tear you down. But to believe in something so hard and then to just kind of be told like, yeah, it was amazing, but
But
I have nothing for you. It's
Yeah.
kind of like, okay, thanks. Why did you even compliment me then? Like,
so
Just
how
move
long have you
along.
been out of the journalism game?
Probably about a year now. Actually, I think the last time I wrote a story, like music related story, was probably when I interviewed Hoyan, who was a duo in Laramie. And
Solid
last,
duo.
How
yeah.
are they doing?
I think they live in separate places. I don't think they're making anything right now. I don't really have an update on them actually,
Yeah,
but I
sure.
do
Well,
know that
We're all kind of in the same boat, I
yeah,
guess.
I think Mike. That's his. I'm scared I'm saying
Yeah,
it
it's
the wrong.
Mike.
It's Mike. Okay, cool. I think he's the one that moved to like the East Coast.
Yeah, that's
I
correct.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that they're kind of on hold.
Okay.
I don't think it's necessarily off the table. I haven't heard anything like that, but I just know they're not in the same place. But if they're listening, hi Hoyan, you guys are the best. But yeah, they were the last band I interviewed right before they dropped their album, Cowboy, and it was a really fun interview. And I was like, this is why I do this. But then I just kind of stopped. And I think a lot of it too was the lack of music going on
Mhm.
in town. And I can't interview the same people over and over and be like, and once again, we
Right.
have da da da. Like,
Mhm.
it's different. But I've tried to reach out to some larger bands when they would come on tours and I was going to their concert to be like, yo, you got time for an interview? Can you let me in before the show? It can be even email if you don't want to like sit down with me. And I almost got one with Counterparts, actually, a hardcore band. And the day of, the agent was just like radio silent. Like wouldn't he was like, yeah,
Wow.
I'll see if I have time, you know. And I think I'm assuming he was just really freaking busy. But I just didn't hear anything, so it just kind of didn't work out. But I tried again since then to reach out, and I haven't heard back. I think they're just getting too big, and I'm just like, it's
Mhm.
almost there. It was so
Yeah, that
close.
sucks.
So, yeah.
From what people say is that like the smallest of the small bands, you know, like they're always reaching out trying to get their things going, and then you have like they're just ready to make connections with people.
Right.
Then you have the intermediate bands that have kind of made it and they're like doing it for a living, but they're like also like not like huge yet, and
Yeah.
they are kind of the ones that are like pushing back towards the smaller and trying to still reach up, but they won't like reach out to smaller people.
Yeah.
And then the big time names will take the time, a lot of them, to talk to anyone because they are like at that level to where it's like past the
Yeah.
point of like struggle,
Right.
which is weird because like you would think that the intermediate like groups would do that, but it's kind of just a weird thing because when you're working your ass off trying to make it happen, it's like you don't want to make time for other people because you're trying to make time for yourself or whatever.
sure.
But
Yeah, and I mean, I
I don't
never
know.
take it personally. I've had an agent straight up be like, no interviews this tour, sorry. And I'm like, no worries, you know, it's all good. I'm not going to sit there and take it personally. Because, I mean, I've been on tour and I've seen day of show and it's nuts, you know? Like, there's so
Can be
much
stressful.
happening that it's like to sit down for 20 minutes and try to talk about stuff is sometimes possible for people, but not always. When I had interviewed Chase Lawrence from Coin, he was in his hotel room in the morning in LA. He had just woken up and his agent just called me and was like, I'm going to transfer you in. And you could tell he was just like, hadn't even started the day yet. So it was like perfect timing. I could kind of just, you know, I was like, I was only allowed 10 minutes. So I had to like really hammer in what I could think of. But it was really, really cool because they're kind of bigger in their scene. If you listen to those types of bands, you know who Coin is. And so it was really kind of unreal to have such a positive experience because you're almost like, what if I go into this and they're an asshole?
Mhm.
And I was like
Right.
so excited.
Have you ever
and
had the opposite where they're like, you got 10 minutes and then the person actually enjoys talking to you and you run over?
Yeah, and so that happened with Chase. His agent was the one that was mean. She, like, called him, "That's enough. Like, that's enough." And Chase was like,
Wow.
"Have a good day. Thanks." And she, like, hung up on us while he was trying
Oh.
to say goodbye to me. And I was
Wow.
like, "Okay, bye." But, I mean, I get it. They're on a time crunch. But there's been times, especially with, like, local musicians, I'm like, "Oh, it'll probably only take, like, 30 minutes." And I've sat there for an hour and a half.
Mhm.
And it's just because we just kept talking about stuff and things just kind of kept flowing. Like, before I even knew Sorry No Sympathy, I interviewed Chase, the lead singer, for a school story. Actually, like, I had to for an assignment. And I was like, I have this amount of time before class. Like, we'll meet early in the morning. And I remember we sat down and you just, like, look at your clock and you're, okay, I have an hour. And then you pick it up after, like, 10 questions and you're like, oh my God, like, we have, like, 5 minutes,
Yeah.
you know? And I love that, though. I think that's really fun. And that just shows that it was a really good interview. And there's a lot that I can work with that. And I mean, if I wanted to meet up a second time, I could just, like, I'm not done, you know, can we meet up for longer? But if I could really write long form stories, like the ones you see in the full spreads of Rolling Stone, like,
Right.
that would be my peak, I think. So,
I feel like you
Yeah.
could get there.
I just have to really try. And I have to just let go of those little failures and not think that that's just going to completely rule me out of getting there. I feel like I've done that to myself. And looking at job descriptions, there's nothing that's like straight journalism that's out there right now and really hasn't been. And I'm just like, okay, you can get into marketing, you know, and then right on the side and just keep hustling like you have been, where you just email people and are like, who wants an interview? And then I just need to start submitting them to magazines because I feel like a lot of times now they don't even hire staff. Like, if they know someone who will freelance out, that will do a story, they kind of just pay you by story. They don't really employ you. So
Right. It's a different age of media.
Yeah.
Different age. And so it's very similar, I guess. I don't want to draw too many comparisons between the podcast and journalism and stuff because we're pretty loosey-goosey. Right?
But it kind of is,
Not
though.
a
It's a
chance.
form of journalism.
But yeah, it's to the point to where you have to find your own niche way to do it. And I guess
Right.
that's what we're trying to highlight is people that are going through their own little unique path to try and chase something, for the most part anyway. And so it's extremely relatable to hear you talk about that.
Yeah.
Extremely relatable. And I think it's important to keep writing. That's what I wanted to tell you when I was reading
Right.
some of the stuff from before, some of your older stuff,
Aw.
was just to keep writing. Because that's what we had to tell
Thank
ourselves
you.
is like, we just have to put this out.
Yeah.
And most likely we're going to have some overnight success as far as like friends sharing it and everybody's going to watch the first one. But it's just to keep making them.
For
I
sure.
mean, I said from the beginning, we got to give it a year before you even assess up, down, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because you expect, at least I do, I found myself expecting a lot out of stuff and
Oh,
like
for
having
sure.
like these things like we're going to do this, 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 and this. But as we've gone through this and as I've kind of like tried to help myself personally with my own mental state, because
Yeah.
I tend to overthink things a lot.
Same.
It's just a matter of like expecting, like having low expectations and accepting what's happening, but still putting in the work. You know, it's
Yeah.
like just taking things as they roll and just letting them fly off your back. You know, like you're talking about all this downside towards like your stuff and how it hurts. Like, you know, that whole
Yeah.
process. It's just, you have to
It's a part
stop
of it.
caring. Yeah, you have to
Right.
stop caring and just keep doing what you love. Because if you love it, you'll keep doing it. So,
And I
don't
also
know.
think, you know, writers in general, whether it is journalism, it's, you know, you're an author of fiction or I don't know. I have a professor who was my honors professor of the English department-ish area who I'm still friends with, actually. We talk all the time. And he had called me to catch up and he was like, when's the last time you wrote? And I was like, ooh, maybe a year ago. And he was like, it ebbs and flows, you know, and it's like, yeah, I talk about all this negative stuff, but it's stuff I've actually have been trying to deal with this past year and like get past because I know I need to be writing. But sometimes if it's just not there for you, you kind of have to let it not be there. Because if you force it, it's going to be content that you don't want to put out. And sometimes for me, especially, that discourages me more. But I do feel like, you know, as things are kind of starting to pick up again, and I was on the way here and I was listening to, because I drove from Laramie, it's like an hour and 20 minutes, and I was listening to a bunch of songs I've just been really into lately, and I was like, oh, I want to interview that person. I want to talk to this person. Like, I kind of want to know maybe I should just email their agent. They're all sitting in their houses in quarantine. Like, what am I doing, you know?
Yeah.
And that's where I'm like, okay, I feel it coming back. You know, I just really have to, like, take it easy and not freak out and just kind of let it go how it goes. But I'm the same way. I overthink everything. I'm always, the second I read my article, I'm like, I hate it. but it's already out there. Do I delete it? Do I look shady and just be like,
Mhm.
delete, you know? And then when it comes to interviewing people, they expect it to be out. And so you can't turn back.
Mhm.
Then you read it back. Oh, I wish I would put that differently. Then people are like, that was so cool. And I'm like, oh, thank God.
Mhm.
Good. Like, thank you. I feel validated again. You know,
Mhm.
it's such a weird, yeah, the things you love, you're very protective of. And I feel like that's writing for me as it is like music for others. And
You're putting yourself out there to be super vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like, especially with
Yeah.
writing, you're literally like, it's coming out like
Yeah.
from your deepest like parts of your being. So
for sure.
it's like I said, you have to accept the fact that you are gonna put this stuff out, and whether people vibe with it or not, it is truly who you are, and that is
Yeah.
something special that at least you can get behind. You have to understand that, because people are gonna. There's always gonna be haters, no matter what you do, anything in the world. Like, you're just gonna be. People are gonna try to push you down. They're
Yeah.
gonna
This
give you
car
resistance.
runs on haters. Okay? That's
yeah.
what we fuel up with, is haters.
Right.
But my best advice, if you can even call it advice, I don't know that I should be giving any. But what I
I'll
would
take
tell
it.
you, is just fire it off on Instagram. Shoot your shot, because
Yeah.
in the limited amount of time that we've been doing this, for some reason people are accepting to it and message me back and are open to do this
Right.
stuff. So I would tell you, not only just even bypass the agent, just hit them up.
For sure.
Because
And I've
they-
done that a few times, especially when it comes to going to the concert and they're outside after the show. I just go right to them like, dude, how's tour? Because when you see these fans that are meeting them, they're like, I love you. You saved my life, which is great and a great sentiment, not knocking it at all. But they like tend to look at me like, you just asked me how tour was. Like, you knew I was writing this album. What do you, okay, yeah, let me tell you about it. And it's just kind of like that natural, like, tell me what's going on. And then I can kind of like, if you want to talk more, like, I'm also a writer. Here's my, my card. And
Right.
I haven't been to a concert since all this stuff. It's
Mhm.
been so long that I haven't been able to do that, but it's a really good tool to just, go right to the person.
Mhm.
But there's been a few agents though that have been really great,
Good.
been really helpful. And I mean, I'm so into music that I would love to even do that. If I could be a publicist for somebody, if I could work at a label, I just kind of want to be in it, And so it's super cool though. I do really love the whole industry, even though it's sometimes really not lovable at moments, but
Oh yeah.
I do love it. And I definitely want to keep writing, and I'm going to for sure. It's just those journeys where you're in this like lull and, not a lot of inspiration, but
Life's full of ups and downs.
for
As they say.
sure.
And it is.
So I don't know.
I think
You got any other
Past
questions?
that? Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
go
I
ahead.
was creeping your Instagram, and there's a
Sweet.
picture of your dad playing baseball
Yeah.
Coors Field. So could you elaborate on that? 'Cause that was dope. I was
It's
like, whoa,
so
what is
funny.
going
People
on?
think he's a Rockies player, but my dad loves baseball and softball and plays on like multiple teams every summer. And the Rockies actually have a fantasy camp where you can pay to go out to their spring training facilities and just play baseball with other people for a week, and you get drafted by actual Rockies players on teams,
oh wow.
and you just like play
What?
baseball for a week. So my dad,
Whoa,
once he like
this
was
is
empty
crazy.
nested, he was like, time to shine. I'm gonna get back into baseball. So he went
Nice.
to this fantasy camp, and every year that following summer they play a game on Coors Field.
Really?
And so they get they get the Rockies outfits. They get, and when you're family, you get to go and watch like front row, like by
That's cool.
by like all the, where all
How's
the
the
action is.
gameplay? Is it a little lackluster? Or?
It's interesting
Is
because
it?
you have people from all walks of life, that males and females. It's 18 and up, I think, so any age range. But it's so funny because my dad's like almost 54 years old,
Hell
and he does laps around people. Like he just is like
Well, you
so
said
fast.
he plays every summer, so I mean, he's-
Yeah, and he plays in 18 and up leagues there too, and you'll just watch these like teenage boys, and my dad's just circling them. Like,
he's schooling him.
yeah,
That's
dude,
awesome.
it's wild.
What position
So-
does he play?
He likes to pitch, but he'll also do the outfield. He loves to be way out and do all the running. And I'm like, okay,
that's my
crazy.
favorite part of
I
playing
don't like
softball.
running.
Playing left field.
Yeah, not a Rockies player, but puts on a really
Well,
good
no.
front, So,
I
but
saw
yeah.
the
Good
good
front.
front.
So is he a Reds fan? Since you guys were out in Cincinnati?
No, he was
Good
born
for
in
him.
Boulder, actually. So
Oh,
he's from a
okay.
military family. So they moved around a lot, but he was born in Boulder and just has loved the Rockies since then.
Good,
and
good.
even when we lived in Cincinnati, we went to Reds games, but it was always if they were playing the Rockies. It was no one else.
Really?
So, yeah, I've been to the Reds field. I can't remember what it's called. It's been so many years. I'm sure if I heard it. I know it, but I don't know it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they changed the name of it.
But
Used to be Great American Ballpark. No, that's in Philadelphia.
I
I
was
don't
gonna
know.
say, I
I'll
don't
get
think
back
it's
to you.
that. But yeah, I went to several games as a kid, and baseball is the one sport I can really get down with. I'll watch it on TV. I'll go watch it, but
Hell yeah.
can't get me to watch football or anything else. It's just baseball for me.
Really?
So
That's
yeah,
so backwards to what you would think.
I know
Yeah, most
everyone
Americans,
says that.
yeah.
They're like, "Oh, baseball's so boring," and I'm like, "No, dude.
Oh,
How does someone throw a ball that's like 90 miles an hour?
Mhm.
Like, please let me know the science
And then hit
behind
that ball as being thrown.
Exactly.
it's unbelievable.
Yeah. So
it is
I
Great
love
American Ballpark.
It is.
How about
Nice,
that?
bro.
Good job.
How
I didn't
about
even
that
know
for
when I'm
you?
from there. God, so stupid.
Yeah,
It's okay.
this guy will talk baseball with you for hours.
Yeah, don't get me
guys
started.
love-
Yeah, I love
All
baseball.
sports.
And my dad also got a ball signed by all the 07 players.
Mm-hmm.
And
When they got swept by the Red Sox at Coors
Was
Field.
it?
Red Sox, son.
okay,
Yeah, it was the
was
Red
it-
Sox.
See,
That
this is the
hurts.
thing. I don't know facts. I know how the game is played and I can watch it, but anyways, the 07 lineup, my dad was super stoked about it and my
Star-studded lineup, I
Yeah.
will say.
Everybody in this region thought that they were going to win the World Series.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Everybody
yeah.
thought.
They won like 26 games in a row just to be the wild card team. They played in the play-in game,
Mhm.
and Matt Holiday scored.
Bounced his face off the
Yeah,
kid.
he's bleeding. Dude,
Yeah.
I remember that.
No,
never
I
forget.
remember this.
That was so
actually,
relatable,
yes.
dude, because around the same time, I did the same exact playing baseball and had like a little scar right here. You guys remember
You're
that?
just
Oh,
part
yeah.
of the
Crush.
07 lineup, dude.
Yeah.
You're
Oh,
just
it
part
was
of it.
just, it was crazy.
You did more of like a flop
Oh,
instead
it
of a
was
slide.
way less
Yeah.
graceful.
Mhm.
But yeah, he was super stoked about that, and he has a bunch of autographed baseballs and stuff
That's
every year
sweet.
at fantasy camp because the people that show up, some are like changed sometimes, and I loved Tony Wolters at the time, like I loved him, and he was so embarrassing, and like made him do a video saying hi to me, and I was like 22, and I was
Oh,
like, please
what?
don't, I'm too old for this.
I don't know. I don't know if you're ever too
Well, he
old for
just
that.
made me sound like a creep. He was like,
Mm.
my daughter's in love with you. And I was like, no. Like,
Oh.
please stop. And he was like, hi, Abby. Like, thanks for watching the Rockies. And I
That's
was like,
funny.
I am so embarrassed. Why did you
Dreams
do that?
do come true.
Mhm.
But, you know, it was cool.
That just goes to show you, shoot your shot.
Yeah,
Shoot
dude.
your shot. Just ask.
Well, I interviewed Jeff Houston, actually. That was like non-music, but I did get to interview him for the UW Branding Iron. Yeah. My dad hooked me up. He was like, dude, just hit up Jeff Houston. I
What's
remember
the
I
other
called his
dude's
office
name?
phone and I was like, is this Jeff? I was like so scared.
The other guy that was on Fox Sports with him, the guy with the cowboy hat. Anybody remember?
Oh.
Mhm.
Tracy something.
Yeah, he
Like
did it
Tracy
for a long time.
Ringlesby or something. He's from Casper. So that would be interesting to speak with that old gentleman as well.
Sure.
Where's Jamie?
We got ideas.
I was gonna say I can't remember. I mean, that probably is what his name is.
That's crazy. He has an incredible voice, by the
Mhm.
way.
Yeah,
Jeff
Oh, yeah.
Hughes.
and he was easy to interview. He was so like, yeah, just that voice was just the whole time, just super chill. Like would answer any question,
Pretty
and he was a
down to
UW
earth.
alum, so
Oh, really?
that's partially to how I kind of got to sell that
Right.
interview with him. Was like, you want to be in your old university's newspaper because he played baseball for UW when they still had a team.
hmm
So it's funny.
Yeah, there's two UWs. There's one that had a baseball team, and there's one that doesn't.
hmm
Yeah.
I just remember.
That's the sad part about living in Wyoming is there's no baseball teams for
Mhm.
like high school sports or anything. And when
Yeah,
I lived
you-
in Ohio, there were.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We had to pay like, I don't know, like $1,500 to $2,000 to play every summer, and like we'd fundraise that.
Holy
But
cow!
we would win, and then be told we were the black eye of the community.
Wow.
Hurts.
How
We-
about that?
Wheatland
The
Lobos.
city pulled our funding
Amazing.
on our baseball team,
Classic Wyoming
Yeah.
material.
and then we went out and won another one.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah.
Like you said, this car runs on haters.
Good kid.
Sweet.
Yep.
Anything else from anybody?
No, but are you still doing photography?
Here and
Sorry, I
there.
said
I
no,
mean,
and I
not. I haven't picked up my camera in a long time, to be fairly
Pick
honest.
your shit up, dude.
But I want to again. And so I plan
Me
to.
too.
And I've applied for several jobs where photography is a part of it. My biggest thing is So I've brought him up a few times, but my boyfriend Blaise is like wizard with anything ever. Like literally
He
he's not
really
bad
is.
at one thing, and it's annoying.
Mario Kart?
What's that?
Mario Kart?
I don't know about that. I'll have to ask him. Maybe if he's bad, then I can
Guitar
get a.
Hero.
I mean, I'm probably not good
he's
at it
probably
either.
really good at Guitar Hero, huh?
I don't know about that either. You know,
All right.
I don't know. He beats my ass in Mortal Kombat all the
There you
time.
go.
I mean,
There you
that's
go.
that's true. But he is like Photoshop Lightroom wizard, and I would really like to actually learn more because I just know a very limited amount of tricks on both of those. So, I mean, living together will probably motivate me to do more of that. But I have done photography, and I mean, I did photos for you guys, and I was actually really proud of how they turned out.
Yeah,
so.
they were great, actually.
Thank
They
you.
were
Yeah.
great.
So I do need to pick it up again. It's definitely not my favorite thing to do, but I want to be good at it for the sake of knowing how. I think it's a really important skill, especially if I do end up becoming a full-time journalist and I show up on an interview. And if I can just do the photos and everything right there, they
Sure.
don't need to hire out more than one person. I can just do it all, which has
Yeah.
been a goal.
Yeah.
And I've wanted to get into video too, but I'm extremely frustrated with video editing
You and me
because
both.
again, Blaise is very good, and then he just does circles around me because he can do all this crazy stuff, and I'm just too impatient. Like, when I pick up something new, I want to be good at it, like, right away, and I
That's
hate that about
everybody.
myself, but I get really upset and just impatient, and so I just need to get on the train and just start learning and just do it.
One step at a time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You'll get it.
But photos I can do, and I can basically edit. I just need to know a few of the really cool, crazy tricks, but
Well, whether it means something or not, I like your writing. I love the photography stuff. Your
Thank
heart's in
you.
the right place.
thank
So
you.
do me a favor and just keep going at whatever you want to do.
For sure.
Because it will work itself out eventually.
You're right.
It
We
will.
did talk about
Correct.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely plan to, even if I do end up doing something else for a career, I still want to have writing somewhere.
Mhm.
So,
Can we plug your Instagram?
Osh,
Yeah.
you
what is
can.
it?
So, my name's spelled like Abbey Road, like the Beatles album. That's not why I was named that, but that's just the best way to remember my spelling. But it's _ Abbey Williams _
Nice.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Check it out.
Thank you, Abby.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks for
coming over.
having me.
Thanks for making the trip.
For sure.
Good time.
Woo woo.